Thanks for tuning in. Today I'll show you the repair and restoration of an SAE 2400 power amplifier that was produced in the United States from the middle to the late 1970s. It's a great part of stereo history, and at the end I'll show it in operation in my system. If you enjoy vintage audio equipment, you've come to the right spot. Please subscribe and hit that notification bell, as well as giving me a big thumbs up if you like this video, and share it with others. This SAE 2400 power amplifier is more than 40 years old, and it's in need of some service, just like they all are when they're this old. First off, the design of the amplifier, it's very compact. It includes a fan on top of the heat sink assembly. This amplifier was rated at 200 watts per channel, which pretty high, and it's pretty small area of heat sinks for this amplifier, so they had to use a fan with it. One thing I'll tell you, to get into this thing, I don't remember how many screws there were, but there's about 35 of them, it seems like. It is crazy. I've had to open it a couple different times, and I was like, oh no, not again. This isn't one of those where you take 4 screws out and the cover comes off. Man, it's whoever the mechanical engineer was. I don't know. I think he used to work on Navy ships or something, because it's almost like this thing's never going to come apart. So that's just one thing to make a note of. And it's funny, once you get into it, there's just 3 screws that hold all 8 of the meter lamps. Some of these units, it's tough to get to the lamps to change them out, but in this case, once you've got it opened up and getting those 35 screws out of the way, there's like 3 more, and all 8 meter lamps will just come out in your hand, literally. So that's a nice thing. Like any older unit, when I got it, it was pretty dirty, so it's going to take a lot of cleaning, and so I removed the face plate from the front, and of course, you know, there's no doubt, you take a soft cloth, you take some water with some dish soap, take something mild at first and start cleaning it up, and of course there was plenty of dirt. Now with the face plate off, I was also able to get my deoxit straw up into these push button switches that are in the front, and they're always notorious for causing issues, not just in SAE, but in any 40+ year old piece of stereo equipment. So I was able to get those cleaned up. It was kind of interesting that the driver assemblies, in that it's very difficult to get the case apart. Not difficult, it's just a whole bunch of screws. The driver assemblies are just 3 cables, and it comes right out onto your table for you. So that couldn't be any easier. And one thing that was interesting in this unit anyway, and this is the only SAE 2400 I've worked on, the left and the right driver assemblies were apparently different artwork revisions, because the boards look different. So I'm assuming at the factory, you know, they were just changing over when they built this unit, and I got one of the older ones and one of the newer ones, or whoever bought it back in the 70s got one of the older ones and newer ones. It doesn't matter. It functions, and it's just something to make note of. I had a couple bad transistors in the right driver assembly that was causing a high DC offset. You may have seen some of my videos. That's a way you can real quick check an amplifier. Just check that DC offset at the speaker outputs, and it should be around 0 volts. If it's, you know, anything higher, in this case it was over 100 millivolts, and so something's going on there, and I had a couple bad transistors that I changed out that fixed that up. Protection assembly, again, very easy to get out. It's like a plug-in, 2 plug-in connectors. Just pull it right out. You can bring it out onto your workbench, which makes it very nice to work on. You don't have all those cables, you know, bending them back and forth, so that was real nice. I did check the filter capacitors. You know me and these electrolytics, I got to change them, right? Well, I went ahead and checked these guys, and they looked good. I mean, as far as their capacitance, ability to hold what they're supposed to, and also what was probably more important was their ESR rating, which was very good. So for now, I am going to change them out, but for now they're going to stay in because I don't have those in stock. stock. And usually filter capacitors, that's not one of those things you got to rip the whole unit apart again. And this unit's the same way. You can get to those down the road. I purchased a new fan for this 2400, as the original one was just really loud. And what a surprise, right? You know, a 40-year-old fan, what do you expect? It was loud. Well, so I purchased a new one. What I did when I removed the fan, I thought, well, let me get the heatsink assemblies out of here and let me reseat those power transistors. Put some new insulators in there and some new thermal compound. So I went in there and I cleaned up the old heat sinks, the old thermal material, cleaning up the transistors themselves. These are the original SAE transistors, so that's kind of neat, right? They've never been changed out, so this is all good work to do, and hopefully they'll last another 40 years, maybe longer than that. And it's not really a real difficult thing to do, and it's more, takes you more time, costs you a few pennies for the mica insulators, the transistor insulators, and a quarter's worth of thermal compound. So really costs you almost nothing except a little bit of work. I got the heatsink cleaned up. I kept working on those transistors, get them all cleaned up, get some new mica transistor insulators out and get those put in too. And I went ahead and did that and started to, I reassembled part of the power transistors back into the heatsink assembly. And then it was time for me to go over to the other side. That was the right channel. And so now it was time for the left channel, and you can see they're dirty. The thermal compound has gotten kind of old and dried up. So again, original SAEs, pretty cool, I think. So I want to save those, and I thought this was worth the time. So I did the left channel and got it all back together. So that was ready to go. Put the new fan in, and it was quieter. But boy, it was pretty darn loud. You know, the design of this, I mean, this pushed a lot of air through this unit. I mean, an awful lot of air, and it made an awful lot of noise, right? Usually you get a lot of air, you get a lot of noise. Well, guess what? You got a lot of noise. What I ended up doing, this is a 120 volt fan. Actually, I think it's rated at 100 to 120. So I'm in the United States, so we have 120 coming out of our mains. I put a dropping resistor between this fan and the mains to reduce the voltage down, just to make it run slower. Is it good for the fan? Maybe not. But I tell you what, you know, it sounds so much quieter. Can you hear the fan a little bit? A little bit. But boy, before it was just roaring, and it never got hot. You know, that was the thing. This is pushing enough air. Doesn't matter how hard you run the amplifier, it stays cool. Still pushes plenty of air, but not as much as the original. The original, you could have locked it in, I think, into a cabinet in a room at 120, and it would have never got hot. It was just, I guess, over-engineered. I guess you can't complain about that, but you can complain when your amplifier's roaring in the room with you when you're trying to listen to your music. So I replaced, you know, several different electrolytic capacitors, had a couple bad transistors. Once again, always use respected names for your components. Get them from Mauser.com, get them from Digikey.com. Don't get them off of eBay. Just order what you need from one of those two sites, and you'll always get good, fresh stuff guaranteed to come from the manufacturer. I put her back together, listened to her a little bit up on the test bench, and she was ready to go. I'm going to hook her up into my system here, so I hope you enjoyed the video and looking at what I've done to my SAE 2400, and now we're going to get into a music system and listen to it for a little while. So this SAE 2400 power amplifier repair and restoration is complete. It's time for some music. The SAE 2400 is really a pretty sweet sounding amplifier. I'm never disappointed when I bring it in. I have it hooked right now to a Sansui CA2000 preamp. If you happen to come upon a SAE 2400, it would be a great power amplifier for you. It's 200 watts a channel into 8 ohms, so it's powerful enough for almost everybody's needs. Like all vintage pieces of equipment though, just like this one, over 40 years old, the whole key is having to have those electrolytic capacitors replaced, have the unit put up on a test bench, and just get it working, operating properly. If it's operating properly, you're going to be really happy with an SAE 2400. It's a very attractive unit. I mean, big, large power meters if you like that. It's gorgeous looking. This amplifier doesn't disappoint from the lowest to the highest frequencies. It's a very, very neutral sounding amplifier. It's effortless with its power. I don't think many people are going to come up short there. The only one thing I will say, as I showed earlier in the video, is the fan noise. You're going to have some fan noise because this unit does require a fan. I know some people have just disconnected it. Big mistake. You need some air going through this thing. You know, I did use that dropping resistor to slow it down, but don't just say, oh, it probably doesn't need that fan. This unit needs to move some air through that small heatsink assembly, especially if you're running this amplifier hard at all. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, I'd appreciate a big thumbs up down below. And if you're viewing and you're not a subscriber and you think you'd like to see some more videos like this, please subscribe. Thanks, and I hope you all have a good day.